Wylie and his mama lived in the swamp in a little bitty shack. Wylie had lived there all his life, and he loved his mama. And Wylie's mama loved him. A couple of years before this particular time, in this particular story, Wylie's daddy had been killed by the swamp beast. They had gotten in a fight, and the swamp beast killed Wylie's daddy. They had done pretty good though, because Wylie's mama, she knew some magic spells, and she could make some secret things that would help them. But the swamp beast, he knew some bad magic spells. The swamp beast was a mean, ugly critter. Everybody was afraid of him, but there was one thing the swamp beast was really afraid of, and that was dogs. So the rule was, every time that Wylie went out into the swamp, he always took his dogs. On this particular morning, in this particular story, Wylie's mama woke him up really early. She said, "Wylie, get ready, because I got some chores for you to do." So Wylie got up and combed his hair, and he washed his face, and he brushed his teeth, and he came into the kitchen. And he told his mama told him, said, "I want you to go out and gather some wood for a fire." So Wylie started out the door to where his dogs were. His mama came outside, and she had a glass of milk in her hand. She said, "I don't want you to take those dogs with you, because you're not going to go that deep into the swamp anyway. And if you do, and you take the dogs, y'all start running rabbits and playing, and before you know it, it'll be dark, and I'll be worried, and it'll be too late for supper. So I put a secret spell on this glass of milk, and if anything happens to you, or that swamp beast comes anywhere around you while you're down there gathering wood, this milk will turn red as blood, and I'll know you're in danger, and I'll send the dogs down there to get the swamp beast." So Wylie did whatever his mama said, because he loved his mama and he minded her. And he was running down through the forest at the swamp, picking up sticks and gathering wood and putting together kindling for the fire. And he was thinking about what a beautiful evening it was, and how much he loved his mama, and how good that fire was going to feel, and whatever she was going to cook for dinner, how wonderful that was going to taste. And before he knew it, he was way off from the shack. He couldn't even see it anymore. It was getting dark. And he didn't know it, but the swamp beast had heard him coming. He got a lump in his throat. And right out from behind a dead tree stepped that ugly, gnarly, stinky, smelly swamp beast. And he spoke to Wylie, and his voice sounded like a creaking of a door that hadn't had any oil on it in 100 years. He said, "Hello, Wylie." Wylie was shaking all over, and he was so scared he couldn't even move. And he said, "Hello." The swamp beast said, "How are you today?" Wylie said, I'm fine. How are you?" The swamp beast said, "I'm hungry." When he said that, slobber was running off his chin, and Wylie could see his sharp, jagged teeth. But what he didn't know was that glass of milk that his mama had set in the kitchen, it turned red as blood, and she jumped up and ran right out the door and let those dogs go, and they came flying down through the swamp and come up underneath the bushes and scared that swamp beast so bad he took off running, and those dogs chased him for 100 miles. Wow, he felt so much better. He picked up all that firewood and he ran all the way home. And when he did, his mama was standing there waiting for him on the front porch, and she gave him a big old giant hug, and they built a fire right there in the fireplace, and she fixed the biggest supper. And Wylie spent the rest of the evening warming himself right there by that fire. In a couple of days, though, Wylie's mama asked him again, "Wylie, I need some berries to make you a berry pie." Now, Wylie didn't mind this at all. She said, "I want you to go out just down where the berry patch is below the house, and I want you to pick a bunch of berries and bring them back." Well, he was just happy to do that. And he went down there, and he had a big old basket on his arm. And he started picking berries at one end of this row of berry bushes. It seemed like it was a mile long, and he picked and picked and picked those berries. And when he got to the end, there stood the swamp beast again. And he looked uglier and more ferocious, and he smelled worse than he did the first time that Wylie saw the swamp beast. And he said, "Hello, Wylie." And his breath smelled so bad, Wylie thought he was going to be sick in his stomach. And Wylie said, "Hello, swamp beast." Well, back at the cabin, Wylie's mama had got busy working outside, and she had that same glass of milk set aside, but she forgot to take it out with her. And she didn't know that it had turned blood red. And Wylie kept thinking, "They're going to come in just a minute. The dogs are going to come in just a minute." And she forgot about Wylie. His mama did. And the swamp beast said, "This time, the dogs aren't going to come. And this time, I am going to eat you, Wylie." Wylie didn't know what to do. So he jumped up in the tallest tree that was as close as he could, and he climbed it as fast as he could. The swamp beast walked over to the trunk of that tree, and he looked up at Wylie, and he said, "What makes you think I can't climb trees, Wylie?" And up he came. And Wylie climbed higher, and the swamp beast climbed higher. And the closer that the swamp beast got to Wylie, the more afraid he got, and the more he thought, "I gotta come up with a plan." And then he thought, he said, "Mr. Swamp Beast, don't you know magic?" And the swamp beast stopped, and he got a big smile on his face, and he said, "Yeah, why, I do know magic." And what Wylie said to the swamp beast, he said, "Why don't you show me a magic trick? Why don't you see if you can make ropes come out from everywhere?" And the swamp beast said, "That'll be easy, Wylie." And the swamp beast threw his hands up and he said, "Rope, rope, everywhere rope." And lo and behold, bundles of ropes and piles of ropes and circles and long pieces of rope came from everywhere, and they were hanging all over the trees. And what do you think Wylie did? He grabbed those ropes and he started swinging from one tree to the next, trying to get away from the swamp beast. And the swamp beast was so surprised, he didn't know what to do. So he said, "Rope, rope, disappear rope." And all the rope disappeared. And Wylie fell from the tree as hard as he could, and he slammed on the ground. He sat up really quick. And then he realized his plan had worked. If he could hear his dogs barking in the background, and the rope that he had tied them up with so they wouldn't follow him had disappeared too. And the next thing he knew, they came sprinting out of the bushes. And they chased that swamp beast and chased him 200 miles away. And Wylie picked up his basket and put all those berries back in it, carried them home, gave them to his mama, and she made a berry pie. And from that day on, Wylie and his mama made a pact to never leave that house again without those dogs.